We're going to display three quotes, very strong quotes about life and abortion. And your job is to figure out which of these three come from Pope Francis. First quote: have you ever wondered why you do not see many dwarfs on the streets? Because the protocol of many doctors is to ask the question, will it have problems? In the last century, the entire world was scandalized over what the Nazis were doing to maintain the purity of the race. Today, we do the same thing, but with white gloves. Hands up if you think this one comes from Pope Francis. Okay, thank you. Number 2, it is not right to do away with a human being, however small, in order to solve a problem. It is like hiring a hitman to solve a problem. Hands up if you think that one comes from Pope Francis. Okay, thank you everyone. Finally, 3, what is thrown away is often human beings themselves who are discarded as unnecessary. For example, it is frightful even to think there are children, victims of abortion, who will never see the light of day. Is this one from Pope Francis? Hands up. I think you guys are just playing the odds. You're thinking 1 out of 3 is going to be... Okay, so the answer is all 3 come from Pope Francis. They're all on the Vatican website. It's very interesting, such strong statements, even though Pope Francis is most famous for his 2013 statement, who am I to judge? Now, the world loved that statement. The media was all over that statement because the sentiment was that Christians should stop judging people and the church should stop judging. But here's the thing, Pope Francis judges all the time because he does compare aborting children with defects to Nazi eugenics. He compares abortion to hiring a hitman. So for those of you who are just joining us, today is the 3rd of 4 homilies on pro-life issues, abortion, and we said 3 weeks ago they're going to be really challenging homilies, so just so you know where we're at today. Jesus teaches in the gospel, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. What is he saying? Okay, he is saying, don't judge rashly. Okay, judging rashly means judging without evidence. He's saying you need to judge yourself first. And finally, don't judge the interior of a person. You don't know the interior of a person unless somehow they tell you, unless they reveal what's in their heart. We know that that's saying, Jesus is not saying don't judge ever. We know he's not saying that because one of his other sayings is this: if your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. So rebuking your brother or sister, it implies you're making a judgment about their behavior. Another one of his sayings: first, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So the point of correcting ourselves is so that we can help correct those we love. So that implies a judgment. So that's the scriptural part. Let's just think logically for a moment. All of us here judge, and to a certain extent, that's right. So parents have to judge their children's behavior. That's how they help them grow. So teachers need to judge their students' behavior. And then at work, most of us work, the boss has to judge behavior. That's how they know whether to reward or promote, whether to warn or even maybe to fire. But in all these cases, we have to be very wary about judging the person's heart because we don't know what's on their heart unless they somehow reveal it. One of my greatest frustrations is with the mainstream media and their coverage of life issues. It was really interesting. Some months ago, I was talking to this man after Mass, and he works for City News. And so I just said, well, you know, sorry, but I see a lot of bias at City News. And he said something really good. He said, you know, Father, I've heard a lot of that, and it's not like there's some, and he says, he always tells this to everyone, he says, it's not like we're getting orders from some headquarters in Toronto saying, you guys have to do stories on this. He said, I've done a lot of stories on conservative issues, and no one responds to it online. So what he said, it's good for me to consider. Don't judge the hearts of the people in media. Okay, I know some people will say, yeah, there's a lot of evidence. A lot of people in media are left-leaning, therefore they're doing it for a certain reason. Okay, we'll leave that for another time. The point is, if I don't know what's in their heart, I'm not going to judge it. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, you do have to judge the evidence you have before you. So I'll give you some examples. I'm going to show you a quick video, and I want you to tell me how many thousands of people you see in this video. So that crowd was estimated at 150,000. So that is the annual January 21st March for Life in Washington, D.C. Could I just ask, did anyone see this on mainstream news? Yeah, so I myself, I honestly, years ago, people had told me, they say, oh, the media is biased. And I was like, okay, but I didn't believe it. And when I was living in New York, every year for 4 years, living in New York, we'd go down to Washington, D.C. for the march. And back then, the march was way bigger. It took hours just to get through the National Mall. And so guys were telling me, okay, the media is biased, but I had to see it for myself. And so that night, go home and watch the 11 o'clock news. I want to see. So actually, they did cover the March for Life, but I remember at 11:29 p.m., just before they're finishing, and just for 30 seconds. And so what I notice is if that were a gay pride parade, for sure it'd get completely different coverage. So there's a double standard there. We need to focus on this issue of the media because I'm not sure how many of us realize that the information we get about moral issues is always filtered and sometimes it's altered. So if you Google this phrase, pro-lifer kicked, pro-lifer gets kicked, you'll see this video.
It's hard to confuse everybody.
But still, it's better to be, you want to kill them with kindness, remember?
That's right. What?
They actually have people
me.
filming you the whole time. Which
Cool.
is why I say kill with kindness.
Guess what? Hey.
Destruction of private property. It's against the law.
Somebody gets raped by somebody and they're like, I'm a 16-year-old and I can't have this baby. Think you should keep it?
It's a baby.
Yeah.
If someone is raped and she gave birth and she decided to kill her 3-year-old child.
I meant to get your phone.
Someone call the cops.
Meant to take your phone.
Do not touch me. Someone call the cops. I'm
So this happened in Canada 3 years ago. How many heard about this story? How many heard about it on mainstream media? Well, to be fair, Global did have an article on it, but it didn't get as much coverage as you might imagine. So just to be fair, I ask a question. If a trans person got kicked like this, do you think it'd get that coverage? It'd be, in my mind, completely different. We cannot judge Jordan. His name is Jordan Hunt. We can't judge his heart, but we can judge what he did, and what he did was wrong. And more to the point, when I was just doing my research for this, because I remember hearing about this years ago, and I just did research for this recently. And so City News ran a 5-minute YouTube video, a report, and the title was, Salon Facing Threats Over Ex-Employee's Alleged Assault. So Jordan Hunt was working at a salon, they fired him after he did this, and so the salon started getting threats, which is wrong. But my point is that the media, City News in this case, they focused on the salon getting threats rather than the person who got kicked. And that wouldn't happen in any other situation. For decades, the media has pushed abortion, and one of the reasons they give is to legalize, they want to legalize abortion to stop women from having back alley abortions. And recently, the British newspaper, The Telegraph, reported that in the southeastern country of Africa, Malawi, they have 12,000 back alley abortions every year. But to the Telegraph's credit, they retracted that. They said that's just not even close to being true. 12,000, but actually in the country, it's only 2,100 maternal deaths every year, and only a few of those 2,000 are back alley abortions. We can judge consistent evidence. The media's not reporting on abortion or altering the information or outright lying, it contributes to the greatest number of deaths every year in the world. So we show the slide that we have for the past few weeks. So this is updated up to February 17th, I believe. So this is from Worldometers. Worldometers is not Catholic, it's not religious, it's not a pro-life website. They just track statistics. So in the world, 5.5 million abortions so far this calendar year, by far the number one cause of death. And that is why the misreporting on this is the absolute worst. As we mentioned for the past 2 weeks, we're doing our annual 40 Days for Life prayer vigil. We publicly pray for an end to abortion that takes place at BC Women's Hospital. It's peaceful. It's a way of building up our courage because it's hard to stand up for something that's not popular. We don't engage people. That's not what the vigil is about. There will be other times to engage people in peaceful dialogue. If you responded to the email that we sent out about participating, thank you so much. But if you could just for now, because not everyone's on our email, at the ends of your pews, could you just pass out these cards? Just pass them down, please. Thank you. So you'll see on these 40 Days for Life sign-up cards, if you would just consider, you'd write down your name, your telephone, and your email. And then this year, we're taking 6 days of witness, Thursday, March 3rd until Tuesday, March 8th. And we do 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And what you would just do is you would just circle. Can you do 1 hour? Can you do a few hours? I just leave that all up to you. Thanks, everyone. We now end with a video about a woman named Melissa Cole. Melissa went to have an abortion, and then she changed her mind, and she gave birth to her son David. Then she gave him up for adoption. And this video is about them meeting for the first time after 19 years. What we're going to do is show the first part of the video, then I'll make a comment, and then the second video. For those of you joining us virtually, so sorry, there's a problem with the YouTube and copyrights, so you're not going to be able to see this video. We'll come back to you in a few minutes, but you can watch this on your own later. But for now, let's just show the first part of the video. It's really important that we never judge the hearts of people who have abortions because we don't know their hearts. We don't know what pressure they're facing, if they're scared and conflicted like Melissa was, and we don't know if there's anyone there to help them. That's why it's really important that we support crisis pregnancy centers so that when someone's actually in a crisis, we can really help. It's also finally important that we never judge people who get pregnant when they're not ready because we don't want to put any pressure on them to kill their child. On the other hand, what that one pro-lifer did by shouting out, that woman shouted out, "That baby has 10 fingers and 10 toes and you're going to kill it." As hard as those words are to say, and as hard as those words are to hear, they were right, and they saved David's life. And I hope everyone really thinks about that. Those tough words, that judgment, if you will, it saved a person's life. It allowed Melissa and her son David to meet again 19 years later and to celebrate life. So I'd ask everyone, please consider signing up for that pro-life witness. And so we'll finish now with this second part of the video.